everyone. This is The Jeff Cowan coming to you from thejeffcowan.com with my weekly podcast, Success in Professional Sales and Life in General, and welcome back. And I say welcome back because many of you keep coming back and you're bringing your friends and your family and coworkers, and the audience is growing and growing and growing, and I sincerely appreciate that. One of the things I want to address really quick is this. I get a lot of texts and emails and stuff from people, a few phone calls, people asking, how do I find out more about The Jeff Cowan? Well, it's easy. You just go to thejeffcowan.com, thejeffcowan.com, and just about anything you'd want to know about me business-wise is on that website. That's where you go. Now, I'm going to jump into today's podcast, again called Success in Professional Sales and Life in General. And this is going to be a quick one because it revolves around a simple question. And this question is, and what I do when I get these questions, by the way, is as I kind of follow trends, I take a look at the emails and texts that I get, and I take, because we get a lot of like questions, if you will. So what I do is I try to take, okay, there's more questions in this area this week than over here, so let's talk about that because it's obviously what they're interested in. And last week, I noticed I got a lot of texts, a lot of emails from people saying, look, I'm not afraid to close. I'm not afraid to ask for the money. The problem is lately I've been getting a no, and I can't get beyond that no. I can't figure out why they're saying no. I can't get to the objection. So do you have anything that can help me out? And the answer is, of course I do. Yes, I'd be more than happy to help you out. And what you're going to like, what I'm going to show you today, is how simple and easy it is. So what we're going to conquer here today is if you ask for the money and somebody says no, how do you get them to hopefully change their mind and, more importantly, find out what the objection is? Well, before I get to that little technique, let's go ahead and start with how you get to that first no in the first place. You've heard me talk on past podcasts about my favorite close, and it's a close called the Assumptive Close. It's the one that I think you should use first and most often, simply because it's so effective. It always delivers a very high closing percentage or closing ratio. Now, talking about closing ratios, I'm not going to give you a closing ratio you should expect from using the Assumptive Close, because depending on your product or service, the closing ratio can change. For example, I've dealt with products and services where if you have a 20 or 25% closing ratio, you're a stud. I mean, you're a superstar. That'd be a very high percentage. On the flip side, I've worked with products that if you had a 70% closing ratio, that would be considered a very poor closing ratio because of the product itself. So I'm not gonna get into that with this close, but I will the next one. But let's start with the Assumptive Close. Now, why is it my favorite close? And the reason I want to talk about this too is because this will keep you from getting so many no's. Because the Assumptive Close is one of the easiest closes to use all the times. It works in most situations with most personalities and most products. And the reason it's so effective is because it's simply where the closer or salesperson, if you will, assumes the customer is going to buy ahead with their or go ahead and say yes when they ask for the money. And after all, why wouldn't they? I mean, why wouldn't they say yes if you've shown them what they've asked for, what they need, what you've identified is going to be best for them during your interview process with them when you're asking them about the product, and they have the budget to do it? Why wouldn't they move ahead? So the Assumptive Close, to give you an idea, just basically goes like this. Now, I've greeted the customer. I've thanked them for coming in. I've asked them what brought them in, so I'm doing my interview questions, how are you going to use the product, what's interesting about the product to you, and all those different things. And then based on that, I selected one or two services or products from my vast product line that I've decided is going to best suit them, and I make a very professional presentation on it. At the end of the presentation, it's now time to ask for the money using the Assumptive Close. Here's how it goes. So, Mr. Customer, now I've shown you what we can do for you and how it works and all the benefits that are included with it. I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the order here so that way you don't have to worry about it, and we'll get it delivered to you here later this week. Now, earlier when we were talking, you said that you were getting ready to go on a motorcycle ride this weekend through the Smoky Mountains. Is that right? So do you see what I did here? Is I assume they're going to buy, and after I assume they're going to buy, I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the order so you don't have to worry about it. I then quickly change the subject to something we've been talking about earlier, building rapport. And in this case, maybe it was riding the motorcycles in the Smoky Mountains. And here's the secret. If they don't stop you, they've bought. And again, most of the time they will if you're showing them what they ask for, what they need, and the resources are there, and you've made a great presentation. Most of the time they will go ahead. So that's got a very high closing ratio. But even with that close, let's get to the point of the podcast this week. They say no. and you ask why, all right, and they just say no, don't want to do it right now, right? Well, it's hard to move forward. So what's a great way to get the objection out of them? Because again, I don't think we've said this yet, but until you know what the objection is, you really can't close on it, because what's keeping them from moving ahead, right? So I'll show you how to do that. But before I do, I want to let you know about this book. It's called Write Service and Write Your Own Paycheck. Now, as I say every week, and I've said the last few weeks, is this. If you're listening to this because you're already in professional sales and you love the product, you love the service that you're representing, you have no desire to change jobs, then forget about this book. You don't need it. Okay, but if you're in representing a product or service and you've been thinking about changing what it is you're representing, think about maybe going to a different industry or with a different product, this book may be for you. If you're listening to this because you're considering getting into professional sales and you're looking for a product to represent, this book may be for you. You can get it at Amazon.com. It comes in hardcover, softcover, and it comes in a Kindle reading thing for your Kindles. And also, I've put together a 10-hour video program that you can get by going to thejeffcowan.com that shows you how to do everything in this book, which is going to show you how to make at least $65,000 a year and probably $100,000 a year. So, great book. Go to Amazon, go to thejeffcowan.com, get the book, check it out, and tell me what you think. And oh, by the way, next week I'm going to tease you a little bit. I've got another book coming out that's for everybody that's in sales, whether you're in it or not in it, no matter what your product or service is. I can't wait. I've been working so hard on this book, and I'll announce it next week. But let's go back to what we were talking about. So now, I've asked the customer for the money, and like I said, I use the Assumptive Close as my first close as an example because it's my favorite close, and it's the reason it's one of my favorite closes, or it is my favorite close, because it gets the highest closing ratios. Because again, repeating myself, if you've shown the customer what they ask for and what they truly need and what they desire, and the budget's there, why wouldn't they go ahead? But in this case, I use the Assumptive Close. Mr. Customer, now I've shown you what our product will do and the many benefits it has for you. I'll go ahead and add it to the order, and that way you won't have to worry about it, and we'll get it delivered to your house here in the next few days. And by the way, you said earlier, you're talking about your kids playing Little League. They play tonight or tomorrow? So that was the Assumptive Close. If they don't stop me when I start to write up the order, then they've bought. No big deal. But if they look at me and say no, the most effective way that I've seen to either get them to say yes, because this close, I don't mind putting a percentage on it, 40% of the time you use this next close, all right, it's going to get them to flip off that no and into yes immediately. And here's what the close is. It couldn't be more simple than this. The customer says, no, I don't think so. You simply look back at them and you say, are you sure? That's the whole close, 3 words. Are you sure? Now notice when I ask that question, I use my voice. I use some emotion with it. I'm really perplexed. Are you sure? And when you're a closer, you have to be able to do that. You can't look at somebody and say, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I'm sure. I said no. Here, let me sign language it for you, right? I mean, you have to be excited about it. You have to show some passion. You have to show some emotion. Are you sure? Now, and then you just shut up and you wait for them to talk, because here's what happens when you ask that question. Again, 4 out of 10 times they'll turn on a dime and go, yeah, I guess you're right. If I'm going to make this decision, I might as well make it today. There's no benefit in waiting. So yeah, go ahead. 4 out of 10 times, I don't care what your product is. Again, assuming you've shown them what they've asked for and what they truly need and the budget's there, 4 out of 10 times they'll change on a dime just like that. But if they don't, and here's how it helps you, it will get them to tell you what the objection truly is. Are you sure? Yeah, well, Jeff, here's the problem. The problem is I didn't think we'd have to invest that much. Or yeah, Jeff, here's the problem. I don't think it's going to cover everything we wanted to. Or Jeff, I think it's too much. Or Jeff, I think it's too little. You get the objection, and now you can go back in on that objection and close. What the are you sure does, it gets the customer to stop, and it gets them to think. It lets them know you're serious about what it is your recommendation. It gets them thinking about the validity of what you're recommending. And it also makes them think that no is really not a good answer at all, and that yes is the right answer. So 4 out of 10 times they turn on a dime, or they will give you the real objection right away on why they're not moving forward. And then with that real objection, you can close on that. See, a simple solution to a simple question. If you're asking the question, you're getting a no, and they're not explaining to you why, then your second close then should always be, are you sure? And I got to tell you, you'll see this. If you ever talk to me about my products, you'll see that after I present it, I don't care what it is, where I'm at, who I'm talking to, I will always start out with the Assumptive Close, and I always will follow, if I get a no, with are you sure? And then from that point, There are literally hundreds of different directions I can go on based on what their true objection is. Hey, my name is Jeff Cowan. I'm coming to you from thejeffcowan.com. I really appreciate you coming back and watching this podcast, Success in Professional Sales and Success in Life in General. Many of you are telling me you're getting tons and tons of stuff out of it and good content, good recommendations and whatnot. You keep coming back, and I promise you, I will continue to give you the best content found anywhere. If you truly want to be the best you can be and maximize the opportunity, keep coming back every Tuesday at noon to my podcast right here. So with that, I'm going to sign off here today, but before I do, I'm going to encourage you to go out and talk to as many people as you can talk to. Show them your product, get them excited about your product, ask them to buy your product, and if they say no, say, are you sure, and get them turned around, and then you're going to make a lot of commission because you're going to make a lot of sales, and you're going to be able to enjoy the life that you so deserve. I want you to go out and do that, because between now and next week, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.